Hi, I'm Sharaad Kuttan. Welcome to Let's Talk, the show that tries to bring you the most important conversations of the day. Today we're going to be speaking to an artist from India who deals with the question of war and other things. Baptist Coelho, he's currently at the Center for Contemporary Art at NTU in Singapore, but he's an independent operator, if I can call you that. Baptist, thank you so much for joining me in my show. I thought we could begin, before we get into the stuff of your work and why you're here looking at the Indian National Army and such, if we could just talk a bit about you and your formation as an artist. You started as a graphic designer, and I'm really interested in how you moved from graphic design into kind of contemporary art. Could you tell us a little bit of that story?
Yeah, well, I sort of graduated in graphic design in Mumbai from an art college there, and then I chose to work as a graphic designer. I worked for a couple of years, and then I got the chance of having a scholarship in design, and then I chose to go to Birmingham out of all the universities that I was looking at. And during that 1 year, 2005 and 6, is where I was embedded in this University of Design. But then my research that I was trying to do was looking at how to use air as a medium. And air as a medium, and that's how I sort of was trying to collect material. And all this material that I was collecting was going into three-dimensional forms. And with the help of my tutor and the department, I almost sort of discovered myself as an artist, I would say, but there. Sort of dealing with material, and I was putting all this material into three-dimensional forms like installations, videos, performances, terms which I didn't know at all. I was almost getting to know all these terms as I was going. My tutor, who was Phil Thompson, was extremely influential for that entire 1 year. So during that 1 year, yes, it was all these different influences of material, of research, etc., that I was translating in. And when I did that 1 year, the university also put up a solo exhibition, because it was also very interesting for someone who came with design, then becomes like an artist, who operates like an artist. And that was also to tell myself, should I even continue doing art? Because here I am as a graphic designer, becoming an artist, which again I find it very problematic. Till today I sometimes find that a little problem, but there I was being the one that I was having a problem with. And I came back to India, and that's how I sort of started myself as an artist. And from step by step I sort of continued, and that is what I am today.
Okay, so it's interesting because in Malaysia we have a few examples of artists who started off as graphic designers. Ibrahim Hussein, a very famous Malaysian artist, and then Liu Kung Yu also started graphic artists and then moved into fine art. And perhaps there's this argument that's really, in some sense, when you think of Liechtenstein, you think of all these things, I mean, that there is no real dividing line. But clearly in your mind there is something. I mean, you seem to suggest you think you're a bit of you thought of yourself as an interloper into the world of fine art, coming from graphic design, and maybe back and forth. What is it that distinguishes the work that you did as a graphic designer, maybe part of your training, and that as somebody in contemporary art and working with installation and other mediums, including something as bizarre as air?
Yeah. I think as a graphic designer, you're always working for a brand, for a client. It's being paid for. You sort of have to address a certain kind of audience because a certain profit has to be made. So you're always dealing with those sort of parameters. And I always felt I did that with a lot of enthusiasm at some point of time. But then when I was doing my research, when I was doing this one year research in the UK, I realized the kind of freedom that I had for myself. I could say something without having any kind of expectations from anyone, but just saying what I felt from within. And so I think that is something that really sort of distinguishes, at least from my point of view of being an artist and being a graphic designer, where I could really also have a critical point of view. As a graphic designer, yes, you can be doing works that have a critical point of view, etc. But I think as an artist, there's something that when you say something or when you do something, there's something that is quite I don't know how to use the word. It's sort of almost like sensitized, within yourself. You're also confronting your own self, your own feelings. You can almost be so vocal about it to almost put it all out there. And as a graphic designer, I don't think I could. There were certain restrictions. Of course, there was a salary that came every month compared to the arts. But yes, it's a choice that I made at that point of time, and I was,
All right, so it's interesting. So for you, it's not so much the actual product or the kinds of, the kind of two-dimensional nature of maybe a lot of graphic arts as opposed to fine art, which could take all kinds of forms, including two dimensions, right? But so for you, the level of criticality that you were allowed to bring to your creative work, right? Let's ask, I mean, I want to know if, and this is a really weird question, if could you be a graphic artist and still have that kind of criticality? Could it be in your training also for criticality? Is criticality the province of only the fine, somebody in the fine arts and somebody who's got like the higher level tiers of the art world?
Yeah. No, I think, well, as I said, it was my experience. I mean, when I was a graphic designer, I didn't have a certain critical voice, as I thought, because of the situation that I was working in. Of course, even as a graphic designer, you can have, everyone has a critical voice. I think a writer, a dancer, an actor, everyone has a critical voice, how you exercise it. As a graphic designer, I found it very limiting at that point of time before 2005 and 6, it was that period. Yes, I don't think a graphic designer can't be critical. Of course you can be, but it was my journey, and that's how I had to almost like separate the two of them in some way to tell myself this is what I can now do and this is what I'm doing. And there was a sense of freedom. There was no sort of working for an organization. There was no sort of getting worried about what this person might say, because...
Okay, but what about the art market? I mean, is there, or the gallery system, or the expectation of critics and perhaps, those institutional buyers and the biennales, that they too come with expectations and provide parameters, perhaps more sophisticated parameters, much less driven by some immediate commercial need. Do you ever feel that the art world also has tried to hem you in or prevent you from thinking in ways that you want to think about?
Not really, and I think that is what I think as an artist you can call the shots for yourself. And I think you can decide at the end of the day you are your own creator. So I think you can say you want to be part of a biennial or not, if you want to be part of an art fair or this or that. And I think that sense of freedom, I think, is very golden, as I call it, to the arts. And I think if you can hold on to it, or it all depends. I mean, some artists want to be part of auction houses, pricing, or an art fair, or a biennial, or this or that. And I think each one chooses what part of the art world that you want to be part of. So I think, yeah, there are lots of possibilities, but I think as an artist you choose, and I think I really don't listen to anyone but just myself, and I've tried to always keep that, and I've also protected that, I might say, to a large extent, to always listen to what I want to say, no matter even there's a so-called trend or this or that, that all can be part and parcel, but I think I focus in a manner of telling a story, and that's very core to my practice.
Right, okay, and that's what we'll come back to, your stories you're telling through your art. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with more on Let's Talk.